Welcome to a special edition of the BioCentury This Week podcast. I'm Jeff Cranmer, one of the executive editors here at BioCentury, and today we're turning our focus to Europe, in particular the Spanish biopharma ecosystem, on the eve of BioCentury's 24th BioEquity Europe conference. The meeting kicks off next week on May 12th in San Sebastian in Basque Country. Of course, it's one of the culinary capitals of the world, but it's also becoming a hotbed for biotech. Joining me to help set the stage for the event are Paula Olazabal, partner and head of ESG at Yisios Capital, McKinsey's Zurich-based partner, Alexandra Zemp, and Claire Mott, portfolio director Europe at EBD Group. And my colleagues from the BioCentury side, we have BioCentury co-founder and CEO David Flores, editor-in-chief and frequent podcast guest Simone Fishburne, as well as the man behind the curtain of all of BioCentury's conferences, Josh Berlin. David, welcome back to the podcast.
Well, thank you.
We are bringing BioCentury to Spain for the second time in the event's 20-year history. Would love to hear from you about the journey to this year's event and the theme of the conference.
Well, I think, you're noting San Sebastian being a foodie capital turns out to be entirely appropriate. When we started BEE in 2000, it was obvious that Europe was creating too many biotechs without a financial ecosystem to actually feed them all. And it was like the nursery rhyme. There was a little woman who lived in a shoe. She had so many children, did not know what to do. And here we are, really 25 years later, because we started BioEquity in 2000. And when we began planning this year's meeting, we were hearing murmurs of hope that the biotech bear may be in the rearview mirror soon. And if you look back and you compare it to 2000, the issue is that there are now so many more children to feed. Many, many more children. The demand for biocapital spans the entire globe. And so when everyone is really desperate to raise money, it creates a lot of noise. So the question is, how do you attract investor attention in this environment? What sort of compelling combination of science and management and strategy will even earn a look, not only from investors, but potential partners and the best talent all these companies need to develop their programs? So for 2024, we decided BEE should really focus on rising above this noise when everyone is clamoring for attention, when everyone's touting novel science and innovative technology, but the buy side can be choosy and stingy about valuations. In another era or another time when money is plentiful and there's room for everyone at the dinner table, then we might be having another discussion about whether we are in a bubble and how long could that bubble last. But not now. BEE 2024 is about actually getting invited to the dinner table and being served enough capital to actually create value.
Excellent. Well, I'd like to bring in Paula now. Paula is based in San Sebastian, and I understand, Paula, that you are a native of this city in Basque Country. Would love to hear from you why San Sebastian makes sense as the location for this year's conference and how the Spain biotech ecosystem looks from where you sit.
Yes, well, thanks for having me here. I'm really honored to represent Yisios Capital here today. And we are all excited to host you in the beautiful city of San Sebastian next week. So regarding the Spanish biotech ecosystem, since Yisios Capital was founded in 2008, we've seen and helped shape the impressive growth of Spain's biotech sector. So having started from a really small base, the biotech sector in Spain now invests over €1 billion in R&D and provides jobs for more than 100,000 people. Of course, venture capital has played a key role in our industry's development. About 100 companies have received both local and international investments, enhancing our global reach. Going to our case, for example, at Yisios, we have co-invested here in Spain with 24 international investors who have provided 4 times the amount that we have invested in those Spanish firms. So the results for us are impressive. So companies like Sanifit, Minorix, Ona Therapeutics, or Splice Bio have all raised substantial funds with investment rounds that range from 30 to even 70 million euros, showing the strong international interest in the Spanish biotech. In terms of exits also, notable successes include Sanifit's acquisition by CSL, Star Diagnostica by QIAGEN, or Celerix by Takeda, and of course the licensing of Minorix European rights to Muraxpharm. These accomplishments underline our sector's global competitiveness. And of course, next week at BioEquity, we're hosting a fireside chat moderated by Jon Arocena, the CEO of the Spanish Association of Biotechnology Companies, where the CEOs of Sanifit and Ona Therapeutics will discuss the evolution of the biotech sector in Spain. So you will hear more about the Spanish biotech sector in that session, but we will also have some information and another host committee session about the Basque Country and Guipúzcoa. So if you allow me, so turning to the Basque Country, this region has built a dynamic biohealth cluster and it's a strong industrial heritage. Today, it's formed by over 200 companies and employs more than 20,000 people. The region is noted for its robust R&D investments and a collaborative environment linking academia, the healthcare system, and industry. The BioBasque strategy is a prime example of this synergy, supported by extensive infrastructure and proactive public support. It has positioned the Basque Country as a hub of biotechnological innovation that has earned a spot as one of Europe's most innovative regions, according to the European Innovation Scoreboard. Next week, as I said, Cristina Ollón from the Basque Business Development Agency will give us more details on the government's strategy and the achievements of the Basque Health Cluster. But we will also focus in Guipúzcoa because, while San Sebastián, apart of being a gastronomical city, we also have, in this small region, a really successful biotech sector. So here our aim is clear. In Guipúzcoa, we want to lead globally in cell, gene, and RNA therapy sectors as part of what they call the GANT strategy. Guipúzcoa has the highest percentage of tech employees in Spain, supported by a successful ecosystem that includes hospitals, research centers, and incubators such as Big Guipúzcoa. During the regional host session, Anne Insausti, the Deputy of Economic Development and Strategic Projects of Guipúzcoa, will discuss the GANT strategy in detail. Together with...
Paula, let me just interrupt here because I had a very interesting conversation with Karen Wagner from ICIOS last week on the BioCentury show. And, she talked about some of the strengths of the region in the way that you've talked a little bit about cell and gene therapy and manufacturing. One of the trends I am seeing, and we'll get to this maybe a little bit later in this podcast, is, the rise of AI, digital health, data sciences. Is that something that the Basque Country and Spain has also got a strength in?
In Spain, yes, of course. We have a great amount of companies that are moving towards AI, but I do think that Catalonia is more focused in AI. And here in the Basque Country, we are most focused, as I said, in what they call the GANT strategy, which is cell and gene therapies.
Excellent. Well, thanks for that, Paula. I'd like to bring in Alexandra now. Alexandra, you'll be presenting McKinsey's 5th annual report on European biotech with an analysis of trends in biotech investment and a look at companies that have risen above the noise, our theme of this year's conference. You'll also be doing a deep dive on a selection of European biotech hubs. Can you give us some highlights of the report?
Yes, Jeff, very happy to, and very happy to join this year's BioEquity again. For people who have been at BioEquities before and listening to our presentations, I think you can be ready again for wealth of data, facts, and analysis, looking deep at what has happened in 2023, what we started to see in the first quarter of 2024, and really trying to bring facts and data beyond all the discussions and all topics you're going to hear and see throughout the BioEquity days. I think for me, the overall theme, if you talk about like rising above the noise, is really, if I look at it, we see a massively growing innovation landscape. I think there have never been more clinical trials running across the industry than there are today ever before, right? The pipelines are bigger than before, more trial activity, which is exciting, of course, from an innovation landscape on the one hand, right? We see like a lot of things coming, but on the other hand, of course, it leads, as David was describing it, to more competition for funds and also more competition for talent. And that's why I think I'm so excited about this question on how to rise above the noise and what we can see there. What we're going to talk about in our presentation is really starting with trends impacting the biotech space, both in the financing area, more in the closer look, but then also going more broadly in the healthcare space, more broadly, what we see actually, how the pharmaceutical industry is changing, how healthcare systems are budget pressured, and looking at these aspects in the broader, I would say, frame of healthcare. We then want to look very deeply in the European space, see what progress has been made and what kind of are exciting hubs and movements and innovations coming in Europe, and then look specifically on what have biotechs actually done to rise above the noise and what are actually traits of successful biotechs. I'm not going to share now a lot of numbers. I leave the numbers and the facts and data for the meeting next week. But perhaps a few trends that we're going to deep dive into is one element of, look, we see now a continued macroeconomic uncertainty. Yet on the positive side, I think we see the public markets indices to stabilize. What I think is very exciting, if you just look at this era of mergers and acquisitions we are in, if you just take the past 5 quarters, I think we have seen an incredibly high amount of M&A activity. And we're actually going to look at like what's European sourced innovation, how did that perform actually, and what's the expectation on revenues and unmet need going forward in this space. And then, of course, if you look at the healthcare environment, how it is evolving, we see that there's increasing competition coming. We also see that healthcare costs are likely getting more under pressure, which will increase the bar for differentiation for biotechs, right? So while we talk about rise above the noise now to attract more funds, I think this will actually be a continued theme over the next years to address. And what the traits are of companies that have successfully done that in the last years, I leave that for the presentation next week.
Great, thanks for that, Alexandra. And of course, everybody who's attending BioEquity will get a advanced copy of the McKinsey report, chock full of all the data. Also get a chance to ask Alexandra and colleagues a few questions. So really, really looking forward to that presentation. Always one of the highlights of the event. Simone, another highlight obviously is the Scene Setter report session, as well as I think you're doing 2 fireside chats this year. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about that.
Yes, thanks, Josh. And as you know, you have got me working very hard this year. I actually have 4 sessions. So let me just start with the Scene Setter. And this is a lovely tradition that we've built with McKinsey, where we dovetail our analyses. The Scene Setter asks the same question of what does it take to rise above the noise. And what we've done is we've taken European companies that in the last year either raised more than a certain amount or had a deal with a pharma. And what we've done here is we break down at a very scientific level. We go all the way into the very detailed science here of what are the platforms and programs that are driving interest. And, one thing, Alexandra, that I totally agree with you, as I look at these companies, in our case, we've got about 82 companies in the cohort. All of them are really interesting companies, rising above the noise. We have platform companies, asset-centric companies, and service companies. All of them have really interesting, innovative platforms and technologies. So the service companies aren't sort of your CROs of old. They are really using cutting-edge approaches to help other companies really expedite their or make their programs more accurate. We'll get into that. I have a stellar panel of investors and CEOs. Josh, the other one, of course, is our talent showcase. That is always a banner panel. And this year we're focusing on boards. And again, taking the theme of rising above the noise, what is the combination of skills and perspectives and personalities that you need to build a board today, which is, probably not the same as you would have wanted 10 years ago or 20 years ago. It is a different set of characters. And then I have 2 fireside chats I alluded to on BioCentury's podcast last week. One, which is for me a perpetual delight, is to talk with Kate Bingham, who I'm sure you know as one of the leading voices in the UK and in UK biotech, managing partner of SV Health Investors and led the UK Vaccine Task Force. And we're going to be talking about the drivers of successful leadership, how you walk this tightrope, which she really does every day, a tightrope between diplomacy and really effective management. And also she'll talk a little bit about what she wants to see in the next generation of VCs. And lastly, I hope you don't have anything else up your sleeve for me, Josh. but these are all equally welcome. I have a happy hour fireside chat with Mike White. For those of you who don't know, happy hour means we do it with a glass of wine in our hand. And Mike White is head of life sciences for HSBC Innovation Banking. Of course, they took over Silicon Valley Bank, SVB. And we are going to be talking about the state of European biotech, what he's looking at, opportunities. We hear a lot about alternative financing, venture debt, and where HSBC is headed. So, yeah. And then I get a drink after that as well, right?
A well-deserved drink, Simone, for sure. Well, I'd like to get to Claire in just a moment. Claire's going to give us sort of the high-level overview of what the meeting looks like and who's coming. But first, I'd like to go back to Paula and Alexandra and just ask, what are some of the challenges that Spain faces, challenges and opportunities, I suppose, that Spain faces as a still emerging biotech region? Of course, that is beyond the delicious distraction of too many Michelin-starred restaurants. Paula, let's start with you, and then maybe Alexandra, you can throw in a thought.
Yes, well, so I do think that, as we discussed before, so I think the mixture that we have from public and private institutions, so the commitment from the public institutions, especially here in the Basque Country, is key for the development of the sector. So looking ahead, I think that we are deeply committed to the biotech field. The public sector is also deeply committed. And I think that we are prepared to really contribute to the European biotechnology and the global health and economic landscapes. Of course, we must be able to attract the talent needed here in Spain. And I think that we are on the way and that we are really working towards making this industry a really competitive industry in Europe.
Alexandra, quick thoughts?
I think for me, actually, a massive opportunity I see for Spain as a country is that if you look at numbers, you actually see that there is a huge amount of clinical trial activity in the country and a lot of international collaborations. And I think it opens up a huge opportunity to actually become more relevant, utilize kind of the network and international collaborations to potentially overcome one of the biggest challenges that I would also see, like attract the right talent that could actually drive biotechs further beyond the initial research space, right? But I think it's a good opportunity.
Excellent. Thanks for that. Claire, thanks for your patience. Let's bring you into the conversation here. Can you tell us a little bit about the C-level partnering you're expecting at the meeting, as well as the attendance and any other thoughts that you have?
Happy to, Jeff, and thanks very much for having me here. It's always a pleasure to be working with BioCentury on BioEquity Europe, and the 24th edition is no exception to that. And certainly in terms of maybe playing on the theme a bit, rise above the noise, bringing the conference to San Sebastian is a first for us. It's a region that we've not been to before. And aside from the gastronomic highlights, we're really looking forward to seeing some of the biotech innovation of the region on the ground. And it looks like a lot of people within the biotech community have the same idea. We're expecting over 1,100 attendees in San Sebastian next week. And I think the number of presenting companies is also a really good indication of the appetite for biotech companies to be getting in front of investors, biotech or pharma executives, and really rising above that noise, making an impact with their presentation and following up that presentation with one-to-one meetings where they can really cement their message. We're expecting over 170 presenting companies next week, and I'm really looking forward to some of the innovations that they're going to be showcasing. And that activity is certainly showing up in our partnering numbers as well, our one-to-one meeting numbers. Already from last week, we were 50% higher number of one-to-one meetings compared to 2023. So it is a really strong indication of the appetite of attendees for obviously meeting each other, but also doing that efficiently and showcasing the innovation they have, their appetite for investment. As Dave was saying, I think that's a good example of the many children who are there to be fed. And with our number of investors in attendance, we've got more than 200 registered now. We're looking to see lots of meals on the table, hopefully. In terms of the attendance in general, we've got over 300 CEOs and over 150 other C-suite executives in attendance from biotech and pharma companies. Again, BioEquity has always had a very strong attendance from the C-suite, and I think this is certainly showing up in the 24th edition of BioEquity as well.
Well, I want to add something to that because we in EBD have been really listening to our venture participants, and one thing they told us last year loudly and clearly, in which we have answered, is they want to see new faces, new mouths to feed. And we've done that this year. I think, Josh, you can confirm my vague recollection, but I think half of the presenting companies at BioEquity this year have never presented at BioEquity. So we're fresh faces for our investors who want to see fresh faces.
That's right. A little over 50%, about 55% this year are completely new to the BioEquity stage. So great opportunity to hear their stories and get to know them next week in San Sebastian.
It's a real, one of the best parts of my job is getting to curate the presenting companies. And I work with my colleagues, Lauren Martz, Simone, of course, Karen Tkach-Tuzman, who heads up our translational work. And I've got to say, this year we've really tripled down on getting new faces, finding companies that have been founded in the past 1, 2, 3, 4 years, whether they're from Sweden, San Sebastian, the UK. We've even let a few Americans, not too many, a few sneak in, but really we've got some great innovative European biotechs for you. And Josh, I'm understanding that we just sold out the meeting. So what does that mean for folks that still want to participate at this point?
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. Record demand this year, as Claire and others mentioned. So we are sold out now for in-person tickets. However, there are two things you can do. One is we have started a wait list like we've done in previous years. So if you do still want to attend in person, please, bioequityeurope.com, our website, please click on the wait list, and we will get a few, can't guarantee we'll get all off, but we'll get a few off of that wait list with some golden tickets. And then I also would highly recommend joining as a digital pass. If you still haven't registered, you can still register now as digital pass. That is open. That includes 2 bonus days of virtual partnering. You have full access to the Partnering One platform, all the recorded sessions of the panels. So you can still get involved, still be a major part of the meeting, and do that from the comfort of your home or your office. And, would just like to say, for those who are already registered, please do also make sure you confirm your partnering meetings this week. As Claire mentioned, we have seen record demand for partnering this year. Last couple of years, we have sold out of partnering slots. So if you want to get your key meetings in next week, please go ahead and confirm those meetings this week. And hope to see you all in San Sebastian.
Yeah, the only trick with the digital is that your glass of wine with Simone will be virtual.
You will have to bring your own wine or booze for Simone's happy hour. So that is not included in the virtual ticket price.
Let me just be clear. The glass of wine is real, but you have to provide it yourself. We may enjoy it virtually.
And we do recommend Spanish wine for this year's event.
Well said.
All right. Well, if you can't join us for this event, you'll have several more events where you can join BioCentury in the fall. This fall, we'll be debuting our first ever dedicated R&D conference. It's called Grand Rounds. It will be in Dave's hometown of Nashville, Tennessee, a state very close to my heart. It'll be in September. Of course, Nashville, that's where you find all that great innovation coming out of Vanderbilt. The event resides at the nexus of academia and industry. You can go to BioCenturyGrandRounds.com to learn more. And we'll once again be hosting an event on the sidelines of the Jeffries conference in the fall. That meeting, of course, has really become the JPM of Europe. And we will once again make our return to Shanghai with our friends at McKinsey in October for the China Healthcare Summit, which we are pleased to host for the 11th year with Bay Helix. And, well, I'd just like to give a big thanks.
Let me
Go ahead, Dave.
Claire has a big meeting too.
Yeah, EBD has BioEurope coming up, our fall partnering meeting happening in Stockholm, Sweden, November 4th to 6th this year.
That sounds lovely. Well, I'm sure you can learn more about that via EBD. And to learn more about our events, you can go to biocentury.com. I'd just like to give a big shout out to Paula, Claire, and Alexandra for partnering with us on this meeting and joining us on today's podcast to give their insights on the Spanish biotech ecosystem. And David, Simone, Josh, as always, a pleasure to have you. Thanks, and hope to see you in San Sebastian next week.
Thanks,
Thank
Jeff.
you much.
Thanks, Jeff.
Kendall Square Orchestra provides the music for BioCentury this week. The group connects science and technology professionals and other members of the greater Boston community to collaborate, innovate, and inspire through music while supporting causes related to healthcare and education.